Hi lads and lasses, welcome to Darts Hints, Tips and Advice with Dynamite Dave. This is number one, so episode one of oches, right? I was going to do purely one for dropping oches, but I thought to be inclusive, because not everybody can have a dropping oche, I thought we'd go through all the different types of oches. Oche number one is very simple, it's a drawn line on the floor. So what you need is you need your dartboard to the bullseye is 5 foot 8 inches to the centre of the bull. From the face of the board, so that's where the darts make contact with it, to your line on the floor needs to be 7 feet 9 1/4. So what I tend to do is it's 7 feet 9 1/4 or 119 inches I think it is from the bullseye. What I tend to do is I have a roll of string. I've got a little roll of string that I keep in my pocket, so because if you go to a venue that you're not used to, somewhere where, and you go throw the dartboard and you think to yourself, this is rubbish, this is nowhere near. So what I do is I have a roll of string, and what I do with it is I've got a thing, a 5 foot 8 piece on it. So what you do is you stick the point of the dart in the centre of the bull. You put the dart in the centre of the bull and let the string hang down. I've got a mark on the string where it's 5 foot 8 inches, spot on, absolutely 5 foot 8 inches. So that gives me a determination then of whether the board is at the right height. The string is then, same thing, you leave the point of the dart in the dartboard, so you just use one of your arrows basically and shove it into the dartboard with your piece of string on it. Fetch it out to the floor over where your oche is. And what I do is I've got another loop on the end of it where I can put a Sharpie into it. And what I do with the Sharpie is I know for a fact when the Sharpie has so much, I've got a mark on the Sharpie where the string goes into it. I know if I hold the Sharpie vertical at that point and make a little mark on the floor, that's exactly right for the oche. Just a bit of an idea there for if you're going to different pubs or you're going to different venues, or if you're going to go and put a dartboard up for somebody. A little roll of string, absolutely fantastic thing to do. You can do it with string, you can do it with, I'd say, heavy gauge fishing wire. You want something that's a fishing line. You want something that's around the 25-30 pound mark, so it's actually got a decent amount of girth about it, because otherwise, as we know, fishing line stretches. So string is what I normally use. String I think is the best. And that, you can either keep it in your darts case, or you can keep it in your pocket. You can take it in your pocket, down to the pub and what have you. Make sure everything's right, and then you know for a fact wherever you go to play darts, you're going to be at the right length. Because if for any reason the dartboard is slightly low, say it's slightly low, you get to somewhere, instead of it being 5 foot 8, it's 5 foot 7 3/4. If you put the string into the middle of the bullseye and pull it out and make your mark on the floor, because it's 1/4 of an inch low, you're going to be 1/4 of an inch further back, and that should account for the difference in the way that your darts throw. So your darts should actually, the trajectory of your darts should remain the same in theory, and it seems to work for me anyway. So anyway, that's that bit. Right, number two, the type of oche that I've got here in my back bedroom. This is the place where I practice during the winter months when it's too cold to practice outside in the shed. It takes too long for the shed to warm up and what have you, and this is where I practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the camera up now and I'm going to show you what I've got on the floor in here. Because I have the grandkids running about and what have you, I haven't actually got a solid oche on the floor here. Something that I'm going to do, I'm going to put a drop in one myself. Hopefully over, maybe during part two of this thing, I'll actually make a drop in oche for this back bedroom so you can actually see how it's done. But we'll go through the theories of it today. Right, so this is oche number two. I find this fantastic because the rubber mats that you buy, you're looking at 25-30 quid for a rubber mat, right? And then when you put a rubber mat on the floor, it walks. So you put it up, you get it exactly at the right length, and as you're playing at it and you're standing on it and you're walking up and down it, it tends to move. So after 5 or 6 visits, it's not in the same place as it was. So you're not in the same place as you was, so it really defeats the object. Now what I did was I went on eBay and I bought a carpet runner, which is just basically a straight piece of carpet, nice and hard wearing so it don't ruin the floor. You'll see in this bedroom we've got wooden floors down all over our house. But if you've got a carpet, if you put this on top of it, it'll protect your carpet, as well as you can roll it up when you've finished with it, if that's what you want to do. With mine, mine's permanently down, and you'll see why in a minute. Right, so I'll pick this up and I'll show you. Right, now then, lads and lasses, this is Dave's oche, and as you can see what I've done with it here, give you a bit of a better run look at it there. Basically it's a carpet runner, and as you come up to it like that, as you can see, it's a carpet threshold, and that's it, just a standard D-shaped carpet threshold screwed down through the carpet. The reason for that is you can actually get your toe onto it. So when I go up to it, instead of looking down at the floor to see where I'm actually standing, I can slide my foot along the floor and just make contact with that. It's not as good as a proper oche, in no way, shape or form, but it's accurate enough to practice at. Right, let's put you back up here. Right, so that's your basic standard oche, like what I use in the back bedroom. What the lads are looking for, and what a lot of people are looking for, and what I've done in many a pub now, I've fitted around the Hyde area where I am, I've fitted at least 3 or 4 of these, and it's called a drop-in oche. Now what a drop-in oche can be is, depending on your circumstances and what you need and what would be acceptable in your house and your environment, or in your club and your environment, is going to differ from one place to another. So starting off with, nice small oche, not a lot to trip over, not a lot of a trip hazard, is bog standard piece of 2x1. Bog standard piece of 2x1. This one is about 2.5 foot long. I mean, the official one, if you want to make an official one like the PDC one, it should be 1 metre, which is 3'3". Right? Doesn't really matter how wide it is, because you're not going to shuffle that far along it. That's the idea of that, is so that you can shuffle far enough along it to still have contact with the oche while you throw your darts. But it's irrelevant. You can have one that long if you want. You can have one 8 inches long, 6 inches long if that's what you want. But personally, I'd recommend 2 to 2.5 foot. It's usually perfectly ample. Now, as you can see with this, I've pre-put some holes into it. They're not actually holes, they're just where dowels would go in. Right, so this is the first way that you can make a drop-in oche. Is something very similar to this. This is one that I've prepared just to show you. Right, so what we've got here at the top is we've got an hole straight the way through, as you can see, with a small countersink on it. That countersink is for theory number 1, basically, and to do this you'd have 3. You'd have one there, one in the middle and one at the other end. What you do is you put a coach bolt in there, a 6mm coach bolt into there, so it protrudes by about 1 inch. Right, your 6mm coach bolt protrudes by 1 inch, and then what you do is you drill 3 6mm holes in the floor to correspond with this, where your oche is. Obviously marking it, once you've done your holes like that, dead simple, put the oche down where you want it, get your measurement on the floor with your Sharpie, put your oche down flat on the floor to exactly where you want it, and mark through your 3 holes, 1, 2, 3, drill your 3 6mm holes, put your coach bolts in, so your coach part of it sits on the top there, flip it over, and what I do on the back edge of the wood here, and this is to make them a little bit more robust for the pubs and what have you, so the bolts don't come loose, is I'll put a nylock nut on that side. But when I put the back nylock nut on that side, I'll tighten it down till it eats into the wood, till it's flat, so it doesn't affect the wood at all, but the bolt that goes through it is rock solid, so it can't be moved up and down or wiggle backwards and forwards. So then you've got three spires sticking out of here, 3 bolts sticking out 1 inch each. You've got your marks on the floor, and then carefully what you have to do is, depending on what type of subfloor you've got, if you've got a wooden subfloor, use a wood drill. If you've got a a concrete or a tar floor, then what you do obviously is you use a masonry bit, and what you want to do is you want to drill down about 1.5 inches, so you've got enough room in the bottom of it for any debris to accumulate in. Don't worry about the debris in the bottom of the hole, because your standard hoover, if you take the attachment off it, stick it over the hole, it'll suck all the rubbish out. So every now and again obviously you'll put the hockey in and you'll think, oh, there's something in the hole, just get the hoover and hoover it out. And that is literally a couple of hours worth of work. If you've never done it before, it'll take you a couple of hours. I can put one of these, this type, into a pub usually in half an hour. Half an hour, 40 minutes, done and dusted from start to finish. That's measuring, putting the wood down, making the holes, dropping it into the floor, and then it's as simple as you bend down, you grab hold of the hockey, you lift it out the floor, and you store it away somewhere. When you want to play, or all you've got in the floor, and it all depends on how posh you want to be. A lot of the pub floors from where I am are usually either wood, right, or like a bitumen tile. Now the bitumen tiles are fine, you just drill straight through them and you can just use them direct because they're quite robust, they're quite tough, they don't tend to get chewed away. So all you've got is 3 nice neat little holes in the floor. If you've got a wooden floor, same thing again really. If it's hardwood, then you should never have a problem. It shouldn't cause any problems at all. However, if you've got a softwood floor, or you're putting them through, let's say, carpet into a subfloor, what I would do is I would go and buy some, I call them top hats. I don't even really know what the name of them is, but I know when I go to B&Q what I'm looking for. And they're made out of either mild steel chrome, so they look chrome, or mild steel brass, so they look brass. And they look like an old-fashioned top hat. They're a circle, like that, about that deep, and then the top of it has like a lip on it, so it's like a top hat. So then what you do with them is you tap them into the hole, and they make your hole nice and neat. So all it looks like is it just looks like a hole with a brass collar around it, because that's exactly what it is really, is a brass collar or a chromium collar. You just tap them in, and then whenever you come put your hockey in, you just drop it in, use it for as long as you're playing, literally bend down, pick it up and go and put it somewhere out the way. Then nobody's going to trip over it, nobody's going to break the neck, and nobody's going to be wanting to sue you. Right, so that's hockey type number 1, and that's going to conclude part 1 of this video. So thanks for watching Darts Hints, Tips and Advice with Dynamite Dave. I'm damn sure there's going to be a lot of questions, so obviously I'll answer the questions in the comments panel. So if you put questions on there, because it's going to arise for some, because obviously unless I get all the equipment out and everything and try and show you exactly or go through how it's done, which I'm no good at editing, I don't do editing, so you know that, the way that I pick the camera up and what have you, it's going to be very difficult for me to do an actual video that covers everything. So that's the end of part 1. What I'm going to do in part 2 is I'm going to show you a bigger hockey, and possibly some other forms of hockeys and the way that they're held down, because obviously that's just about the drop-in type hockey, and there is other hockey types to come. So thanks for watching Darts Hints, Tips and Advice with Dynamite Dave, and don't forget, toe to the hockey.